So I always thought it would be interesting to look back at this conversation between Izanami and Relius back in BlazBlue Central Fiction about the whole, fifth prime field device and everything. Because I kind of wanted to look at this in more depth instead of making a full video on it. Because technically I'm making a video now, but yeah, let's look at it. Let's look at it. Because it's interesting. It's really interesting, and I kind of want to look back at it. Because holy shit. There's a lot of unpacked in so little time. So much to unpack. I probably should have started right after the conversation, but I wanted to start from the beginning of the episode. Hades, male Izanami. So they're talking about the vessels and shit, like Izanami's vessel, in this case being Saya, or, well, as Relius puts it, a Saya at least. And then Izanami's doll body, it's just like, damn, dude. Okay, so you treated it rather harshly lately. Intervention using Takamagahara, summoning Takamizuchi, activating every, all this stuff back in BlazBlue, Chrono Phantasma at the very end at least. That Saya is. Now I know he's probably wording it as yes, that body is Saya, but knowing how BlazBlue works, there are various Sayas. Well, technically, you could even count it as kind of like the origin, since Saya looks. Wait, I'm not gonna start that one right now. It's a different video for another time. Yeah, I had to do slow text. I apologize because I really wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything this time. So any vessel would disintegrate within 2 days of Hades entering it. In other words, it is virtually a miracle that your current vessel even exists. So, yay, you need a good enough vessel for the Origins drive, aka Izanami, for it to go into, or otherwise they usually say any other body would kind of just die under the strain of it. So, kind of like that. Kind of funny. Because she is considered quote-unquote deaf, which she technically is. She kind of represents death, while the Amaterasu's power of creation. So, Origin drive is Izanami. Amaterasu's power of creation is the Izanagi system. So, life and death, yada yada, etc., etc. So, balance the stuff out. Death itself is inside Saya's body. Okay. So here we go. So it is without a doubt a miracle. The very existence of the model for that vessel, number 5, wasn't any regularity among irregularities. So yeah, it's a very special body. Number 5 was very special. And the girl it's cloned from was also very special. Let's keep moving. Okay, I wish to have analyzed it further, but Jubei destroyed it without a trace, and it was impossible to create another exactly like it. Okay, fair. All right. Why that is? Because we'll get into that in a minute. I am no god. It's just funny how many people just need Relius, Relius just feels like the true villain in all this. It doesn't matter how many gods we throw in. This man is just look, here's the thing. Without Relius making a body for Terrami, he would just be nothing more than a spirit roaming around. If it wasn't for Saya and Relius being involved with this, Izanami wouldn't have a body to go into. So Relius is kind of running shit right now, dude. Relius is a main villain. He just doesn't, get his, and the fact that he's still around while all the other villains are down for the count. I mean, if you want to count Hosma, but we're not counting Hosma right now. Yeah, it's just funny. Relius is running shit. Anyway, it's the first time I've heard some weakness from you. Still, it's all comical. I use this body. Yeah, I still know very little about this vessel, and then Relius is going to tell us all, or most of what the prime number 5 was. Oh shit. See, okay, I missed that. But the point is, he says like the difference. He says the way that you create a prime field is not set in stone. You can create a prime field in many ways. It's probably why in the other BlazBlue games there are various other prime fields, and they probably have their own creation methods, which makes sense. You can't just create a prime field the exact same way. Hell, Relics probably created the ones that, well, exactly not the same way. All the current three we know of, like Moo, Nu, and Lambda, they were created in different ways, kinda. Okay, so concerning materials, for the female side, a human can be used as the base, built completely, or can be built completely artificially. For example, the dolls, in which I specialize, are fixated with a soul. So, see, they use he kind of uses the female side of the base. Now, it probably explains, well, mostly explains, I guess, why there's no male prime fields. I mean, imagine that. Like, I get it, because they'll have to mate with a half of a black beast, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, imagine a dude prime field. They have to work all the way around that shit. Okay, so there are several other types, but for the male side, other words, the father of the artificial body, the callus, is the black beast. So essentially, you mate the female side, artificial body. You can use a human or an artificial body. You create a female body, and then mate that body with the black beast. Kinda like it's they use breed. This is Relics we're talking about, so it uses breed. And yes, she was. So I am too indirectly a child of the black beast, which is. It's like it gets even worse when you drag like Ragnar and other characters into this. It says while production methods differ, it involves breeding the female with the black beast. So he uses the word breeding. So yeah, just gotta throw it out there. He uses the word breeding, which is kind of effed up. You use I presume an artificial body of the black beast. Like, you can't just throw the black beast on top of the woman and expect something to happen, because she'll die. But the point is, yeah, like specifically the black beast is what gets me. I kind of get it. I kind of get the deal. Like, how like you have to fuse a prime field with damn it, what was it? You have to fuse the prime field with a piece of the Azure, and then you can create a black beast that way. Kind of like it's like kind of like that. Well, not really create. It's like more like, forget it. I'm getting complicated. I'm getting myself confused. I'm trying to relate this back to the whole creating a Kusanagi shit. I'm getting myself confused. I'm sorry. This is not this type of video. I'm getting myself confused, and this ain't that kind of video. So yeah, see the thing. Okay. Children on the so like this is what gets me, right? So number 5 was cloned from a mysterious girl who could steal souls and amplify Seether. Okay, so she was mated with a black beast and had Ragna, Jin, and then Saya, if I'm reading this all correctly. Sometimes my brain just kind of fails when I try to understand shit about BlazBlue, but this seems relatively simple unless I'm missing something. So yeah, here's what gets me. Explain Hakumen, right? Hakumen's whole deal, right, is hating the black beast. Like, his whole deal is like, oh, I hate the black beast. I hate this piece of shit. My power order dictates that I hate the black beast, right? So like, not only is he Jin, who is a quote-unquote child of a black beast. It's kind of like roundabout. It's like, oh yeah, you hate the very thing you were born from. Like, you hate your parent. You hate your dad. You hate your black beast dad. Oh my god. I don't know. I just find that hilarious. If I'm reading this correctly, I just find it hilarious. Okay. Okay. So Relius mentions that number 5 wasn't his own creation. You know, knowing Relius has his toes dipped in everything, him saying that number 5 wasn't his own creation is really surprising. You figure that, you know, of all the people, Relius would be involved, right? You know, he's like, okay, there's like, oh yeah, number 5, that wasn't my creation. Another person created based off my research. Yeah, of course. Of course, this is Relius, the Chad god we're talking here. So here's what gets me too, right? So here's what gets me, right? The way Relius words, he brings Soichiro out of nowhere. It made me originally believe that Soichiro was the one who made number 5. Like, I don't know. I'm most likely misreading this shit, but like, I swear to God, the way he brought up Relius, sorry, I'm done. Relius brought up Soichiro in this scene. It kind of made me believe that, okay, maybe he brought him up so because maybe Soichiro was the one who created number 5, right? But apparently I'm misreading it. It's probably some other mysterious person, but I think he's talking about Soichiro in a way that, like, you know how Izanami brought up, like, oh, there'd be really nothing wrong with what you, you know, irregularities, what you would create. And then he brings up Soichiro. It's like, oh yeah, he one who taught me how to all this, do this shit, you know? Because like that would mean Soichiro would like use like Soichiro would have. That means Soichiro would have taught Relius. Then Soichiro would then use Relius's research to create his own prime fields. That wouldn't sound right. I'm definitely misreading, but I swear to God, that would be funny if that happened. Like imagine that. Like, just imagine that. Like, that's freaking nutty. Like, if Suichiro isn't, but now imagine that. And that's what he says. I'm simply mocking myself for my own ignorance. So, yeah. Yeah, there are too many unknown factors regarding number 5. So, here's what also gets me, right? So, they use Noel's portrait as a, representative for number 5, since we don't have a picture of her. See, so they use her as a background, right, for number 5, and it made me believe that okay, the Sciatermy theory couldn't work because it says this was decades ago. No, considering the current time, hundreds of years ago would be more accurate. Back then, there was a girl who took the same form as your vessel. So like, he doesn't say the same form as her, Izanami's particularly. He says the vessel. So we can only assume that the girl, number 5, looked exactly like Saya. Then number 5 was cloned from that girl. You know, and then, you know, number 5 would have Ragna Jin and then Saya. So there's like, so technically the girl, it couldn't be Sciatermy. Because like they do mention, okay, well let's keep going further. Let's keep going further. Okay, she could amplify Seether indefinitely, devouring the souls of humans and taking the power for her own. So they relate the whole like the way Relius words this, right? He words it in a way that okay, her power of indefinite Seether amplification would mean after using it, she would devour the souls of the humans and then take their power for her own. So it couldn't really be Sciatermy, even though it could line up, but that means the original girl could have been someone who already just looked like a Saya face. Then number 5 was cloned from her, then gained her powers of, you know, soul eating using her Seether amplification. And then even Relius mentions like it would be truly appropriate to call her a monster. Now, the only other time the character has been called a quote unquote monster in this kind of sense is when Rachel was talking about the God, what's her face? The origin. Like, you know, that whole story about the story of the world back in Chrono Phantasma, you know, the monster, the girl, the hero, you know, shit like that. And it makes sense. You know, when you think about it, it's like, okay, this whole, the original girl was some Saya face. The number 5 was cloned from her and make her look like a Saya face. Then she was made with a black beast to have Ragna, Jin, and Saya. So it's god damn it. So they use monsters. Like it can't be the origin. I swear to freaking God, it can't be. Because that wouldn't make sense. Rather says hundreds of years ago, and there was no way because that was the old world, and that would be just weird. Because the origin wouldn't have existed by then, because she was still being an Amaterasu unit by that point, so it still wouldn't make sense. Anyway, she was defeated by her own brother. More accurately, I should say that she was consumed. See, this is what originally got me, because I remember going on the side of Terami theories, like, oh shit, maybe, at one point in Blood's experience, or maybe whatever, so Naoto may have been beating Side Terami, maybe consumed her, maybe, slipping into more Ragna territory bullshit. But then I started thinking about it more. I was like, okay, what if this was a period in time, right? Let's remember the whole conversation Ragna had with the origin at the end of the game. Like we kind of treat that Saya like, she knows things, and then she and Ragna know each other, right? But we don't know her. Like she's like a completely different Saya. What if she was the girl number 5 was cloned from? Because she's the only other quote-unquote monster that people refer to her as. And it would make sense because she did mention that Ragna at one point had done something to her in this fashion. Ragna, her brother. It makes sense. It's starting to line up. Like, I'm probably just reaching really hard, but it's starting to line up, you know what I mean? Ragna consumes, like, I don't freaking know, man. But I don't know why. It lines up. Like, it can't, I swear to God, it cannot be the origin, man. If the original girl number 5 was cloned from is the origin or something like that, I'm going to lose my shit, man. I'm going to lose my mind. And it can't make sense because Relius has seen it. But you forget that Relius can go inside the boundary and see various events within the boundary. So, whatever, the whole point of boundary is seeing like different timelines and different possibilities. And apparently Ragna and the origin at one point were a possibility. So for all I know, like he only said hundreds of years ago. The origin's been around since like the New World's been created, which has been like a long time. And like how then again, we already know that Relius did time travel to the future, but it would have had to been at a point during that 100-year time span, like a long time ago, right? So like still I'm probably just trying to reach stuff to try to make it tied back together, but I swear to God, I'm be pissed if it's like some roundabout shit. Okay. Anyway, so number 5 is a duplicate of that monster, so perfect that you can call it the real thing. I was most curious to how it's created, because it wouldn't make sense if it was the origin, because Relius wasn't around during that time. Like, unless it's some dumbass way he was, but it's impossible. But this is Relius we're talking about. He's been everywhere, for Christ's sake, so God only knows, but whatever. I'm stretching here. But it's like number 5 is a duplicate of that monster, so perfect you can call it the real thing. So number 5 also had the same abilities as the original girl that she was cloned from. She could amplify Seeker definitely, which will allow her to take the souls of people and add the power to her own. It can't be Saya Terami, because Saya Terami only had the Soul Eater, and on top of that, the way Relius mentions it, it's not Izanami she looks like, it's the vessel who is Saya. So number 5 had to have been a Saya face. Well, I guess a Saya face before Saya. So, like, my only other plausible idea is that this is another Saya face with the power to absorb souls. Like, maybe it's not the Soul Eater exactly. Maybe she just does it. But, another person who can absorb souls is starting to make shit weird. Because we have Ragna, who gained his Soul Eater via the Azure Grimoire, right? Saya Terami, her Soul Eater is a drive that can latch on to people. And it was mentioned that Relius did kill a bunch of people to try to stop the whole Soul Eater incident shit, because it kept latching on to different people. So I don't freaking know, man. I'm racking my brain over some dumb shit. It probably doesn't matter. I mean, okay, so that's the end of the convo. So yeah, closing thoughts. Okay. See, it's like maybe I'm reading too much into the scene, which I most likely am. I tend to do that a lot. But the way, like, I know, like, they want to create a whole ass new portrait for like a whole new ass picture for like the girl, right? The girl that number 5 was cloned from. So they used Noelle, and Noelle obviously is a Saya face. So yeah, so there's a girl running around, well, was running around, right? That, see, I want to believe, like, I want to think it's still like a version of Saya that Ragna knew at one point. Because, like, here's what gets me. When Ragna went to the master unit, right, there was another Saya that he kind of talked to. You know what I mean? Because after the whole business with Susanoo, freaking Noelle / Saya kind of fused back with the origin ish. And I'm like, I'm right here. I'm like, okay then. So, like, who is this Saya Ragna is talking to at the end of Central Fiction, right? So it makes me believe that the story kind of ties in. Okay, the monster was actually the girl itself. What Rachel mentioned, the monster was the girl, right? So with the way Relius mentions it, okay, Ragna at one point, there was a Saya at one point that Ragna had as a sister. He consumed her, apparently. He defeated her, consumed her, and then she somehow ended up in the master unit outside the whole origin business. Like, again, I'm probably making this more complicated than it needs to be, but I swear to God, it kind of makes sense because they did mention, okay, this is a monster. The original girl was a monster. This monster was also mentioned in the story of the world. The girl was the monster, and she does possibly look like Saya. And then Ragna did have a conversation with a Saya at the end of Central Fiction. I'm definitely reading this too hard because there's probably a factor I'm missing in this. But just looking at this conversation at face value, it would make sense that this mysterious Saya that Ragna talked to at the end of Central Fiction is the exact same girl that Relius mentions over 100 years ago. Like, the way they use consumed, I mean, when you hear the word consumed, what do you think of in BlazBlue? Ragna. I mean, I'm just stretching that one real hard, but like, you hear the word consume and brother, what else could you think of? You know what I mean? So the whole Saya Terame theory is probably out the window, because it makes less sense the more I think about it. This whole mysterious new Saya at the end of this game of Central Fiction makes sense. Makes sense. Oh shit, dude. It starts to make sense. But then again, this is BlazBlue. Nothing I ever come up with comes right. So this whole video could literally be useless. But I like theory crafting. But yeah, that's it, man. That's it of that. My brain's hurt, but I'm thinking about this too hard because shit. Oh man, dude. God damn it. I don't know what to think at this point, but it would make sense though. It would make sense. Oh shit. Like, oh man. Okay, so the girl, the monster Relius knew what this is like. Forget. That would make sense though, but that would be weird because that would technically mean that. Oh my god! That would, in some weird roundabout way, would make Ragna his own uncle. Like some Back to the Future shit. That would make Ragna technically his own uncle. Because if a version of Ragna, right, and a version of Saya, at one point he defeated her and consumed her, then number 5 would be cloned from that girl, Ragna's a Saya. Then she would have Ragna, Jin, and Saya. That would make Ragna his own uncle. And I don't see that happening. What the shit? No way, dude. Everyone thought it was wacky for Naruto to be a hypothetical uncle of Ragna, but hearing Ragna being his own uncle would be even worse. Sweet. Oh no, dude. No way. I'm stretching this too far. I'm stretching this too far. No freaking way. No way, dude. No way. This shit that gives me about Mori. He just wants to dump this shit on me. Don't even try it. Just one conversation from Relic. You know, Relic has been dropping most of the lore shit. Is it me, or is this game just an excuse for Relic to say shit because he cut out most of Relic's scenes? I can't. That would make Ragna his own uncle. Ragna Jin's uncle. And brother. I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. I can't. I'm done. My brain.